This sad dog attended his owner's funeral, but what he did next will leave you in tears. We know our pets love us. It's there each time that they look at us with their big eyes. You can see it as clearly as if they could speak the words. This is a story of a dog that adored his person beyond measure and of new hope that came from this. There was once an old man named Micha who lived in a little farming village. He had been a farmer all of his life, but then he became too old to work the fields anymore. His son had moved to the city and built a career there. Micha was proud of him and he loved his son, but it was still sad when he had to sell the farm and move to the village. His son wanted him to move to come live with his family, but even if he couldn't work the land anymore, the village was Micha's home and he didn't want to leave. He would still take long walks along the fields and give young farmers lessons on how to improve their yield. Many of them would come to him with questions, and Micha loved helping them. Micha's son, Alexei, took comfort in the fact that his father took his old sheepdog with him to the village. They had spent their life together and wouldn't be parted. But the old dog became sick and blind, and Micha finally had to say goodbye to his constant companion. It was heartbreaking. Alexei, who often came to visit, begged his dad to get another dog to heal his heart, but Micha felt that he was too old. But he became very lonely without his old friend. It was a hole in his heart that couldn't be filled. Everyone knew the love that he had for animals. Now he had none to care for. Still, with weary bones, he got up each day to take a morning walk. After more than 70 years of getting up early, he couldn't change that now. As he was walking along that cold morning, he heard one of the young farmers calling to him. He came running to Micha with a little bundle in his hands. Before Micha could even respond, the young man put a puppy in his arms. The sweet pup yawned and licked Micha's fingers. Micha's heart softened, but he told the young man sternly that he didn't want a new dog. The young man explained that this puppy was the smallest of the litter. His one leg was slightly shorter than the others too, and he wouldn't make a good working dog. If Micha didn't take him, he would have no home. They couldn't keep him on the farm. What would happen to him without anyone to look after him? Micha looked down again, right into dark brown eyes staring back at him. A little button nose was sniffing in the air. He couldn't say no. He knew that the young man was likely only trying to repay his kindness, but the thought that this puppy wouldn't have anyone to love him was just too much to bear. Micha put the puppy inside his jacket, and the young man smiled. He promised he would bring some food to Micha's house later that day. That way, the old man wouldn't have to carry it on his own from the village shop. Micha knew that he had no more choice. His heart would not allow him to let the dog go to another home. He looked down at the now sleeping puppy, and his heart filled with love. That's why he called the pup Ami, short for Amor. Ami was a very clever dog. He quickly learned to take long walks with Micha and to take care of him. He even brought the old man his walking stick before they went out. The entire village knew Ami, and they loved him for the joy that he brought back into Micha's life. Alexei was overjoyed the next time he came to visit with his wife and saw that his father had a new friend. But the good news didn't stop there. Alexei had come to bring his father fantastic news. Micha's first grandchild was on his way. Alexei was going to have his own son. It was wonderful news indeed. Ami did a happy dance and barked along with the family, although he had no idea what they were celebrating. His family's joy was his own. Ami grew up and learned not to chase every rabbit and squirrel they met on their walks. He learned to love the quiet times, sitting in front of the fire with Micha. Wherever they went, they were always together. They even went on a massive adventure to the city one day. The city wasn't that far from the village, and there was a train you could take to get there. Early one morning, instead of going on their walk, Micha put Ami on a leash and they got on the train. There were all sorts of wonderful smells for a dog to enjoy. In the city, they got off the train and walked for a few blocks. They stopped in front of a pretty house with lovely smelling flowers. Micha knocked on the door and Alexei opened it for him. Together they went inside, and there in a little crib, Ami got his first look at the new baby. He smelled nice and was so small. It felt like this creature needed protecting. So Ami lied down next to the crib. They had a lovely visit, but after a day or two, Micha missed the wide open spaces of the village, and it was time to go home. They would visit a few times after that, and each time the baby, little Mick, would be a little bit bigger. Eventually, he would even throw the ball and run with Ami. But while Mick was getting bigger, Micha was getting older. The family begged him to live with them, but he wouldn't. He always joked that Ami looked after him well enough. He wanted to be home in the village. Until one morning, Ami woke up for their early walk, but Micha didn't. Ami lay his head on the quiet chest and gave out little whimpers. The people of the village were quick to notice that Micha didn't take his morning walk, and they went to check on him. There they found them, the old man and his best friend beside him. They called Alexei, and a funeral was arranged in town. Everyone felt that it was just fair to allow Ami to be there. He was there for every other step. Ami quietly laid next to the casket until it was taken to the cemetery and buried. After that, Alexei and his family tried to get the dog to come home with them, but he wouldn't. They tried to put his leash on him, but he just ran away. Ami wouldn't even heed Mick's call. Eventually, they had to go home and ask some of the villagers to look out for the dog while they were away. The dog that loved his owner so deeply now mourned with equal devotion. He would lay by the cemetery all day next to his owner's grave. Then he would go home at night and sleep in their bed. The village and Alexei had left it open so that he could have a place to stay. Everyone tried to feed the dog, but he would only eat the minimum. His heart seemed to be too broken for food. If Alexei came to take him home, he would hide in the woods where they went for walks. He wasn't ready to go yet. Then one day, Alexei sat next to him in the cemetery. He explained that his father loved Ami very much. They all missed him, but Micha wouldn't want Ami to live like this. They all loved him. Mick loved him. They wanted him to come and live with them, but they couldn't force him. Alexei spoke to the dog as if he was human and hoped that he understood some of the words. But when the dog made no move to get up, Alexei sighed and left. He would try again another day. The sad dog missed his owner, but slowly he started to become a dog again. He ate a little more, and he even chased a rabbit one day. But it was what he did next that will leave you in tears. Early one morning, Ami ran to the cemetery as he always did, but this time he only stood at Micha's grave for short minutes. It was as if he was saying goodbye. Then he ran and jumped onto the train. It took him all the way to the city. He knew where to get off and ran the familiar road. Using his nose to guide him, he stopped in front of a little house with lots of flowers, and there he barked. Until Alexei and his family came outside. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. Ami had decided that it was time to come to them. He would always miss his master, but this was still his family, and together they would know joy again. Thank you for watching this video. Join us again for more amazing stories that inspire.